Hey yo, what is going on today, guys and girls? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video, man, I'm gonna attempt to try and explain some gearing ratios to you guys, some lengthy gears and some short gears if I can, and hopefully make you guys, understand a little bit more about how to tune your gears and everything like that. But anyway, guys, thank you all for watching and tuning in, and I'll catch you guys after the intro. Alright, so gears, man. Gears they can be a pain, bro. They can be a pain. There is a lot of stuff that you need to understand, what does what, everything like that. There's a lot of people in this game that I feel like they don't tune their gears, hence why when people put in a load of horsepower, they then have their gears and it's banging off the rev limiter and everything like that. You always hear in this game, especially, a lot of people when they drift and their whole, it's like their gears are non-existent, if that makes sense. So here is my 240SX. You guys would have seen the updated tune in the last video that I did. Like I say, be sure to go check that out if you don't want to go check out some other sort of gearing ratios on three different types of cars actually. But guys, that is for that. But I've got this tune that I want to show you guys today, which is obviously the longer type gears for a smaller horsepower. Then I have another car, the Hot Rod. You guys would have seen that in the newest update. If you guys haven't got that already, it's a pretty good car. But I have a load of horsepower in that, so I want to sort of show you guys the two different types of horsepower and what sort of gears you want to try and aim for, if that makes sense. So with myself, I always use my final drive at 3.00. So if you're familiar with Forza, which I'm guessing if you're watching this video and you're on the PC, on PS or whatever the case may well be, if you come from PS4, you guys obviously won't know what Forza or played Forza or whatever. You might have an Xbox, who knows. Anyway, on Forza you have acceleration and you have speed when it comes to gears. So acceleration, obviously, if you push it more to the right, will go towards acceleration, which in theory will make your gears start, they'll climb the rev limiter and potentially make it red bang if you do it too much. Whereas if you put it towards speed, your car will gradually go up to red line, but not necessarily red bang if your cars are too lengthy, if that makes sense. If your gears are too lengthy, then obviously it's going to take a hell of a lot longer to get up to red line. It might not even make it to red line. So in drifting, what I like to do is to make my gears smooth. I like to go through a series of tests and go through my gears and test out what does what, basically. If it's too much, if it goes up to red line too quickly, I need to add more speed. So once again, speed is towards the left and acceleration is towards the right. So for this gear, for my second gear, that is my main gear that I drift with. It's a 1.95. So that for this car that I have sitting currently at 290 horsepower with 420 newton meters of torque, it sits nicely all the way up to red line. It doesn't red bang or anything like that. Obviously, if you go too fast into a corner or you're driving straight with your second gear, it's going to red bang. Obviously, you've got to keep that in mind. But when you're in a slide, obviously your car is going to have to spin up those tires and potentially put it into a drift, right? So that's what you want to do. What you want to do is you want to have your car so it's the red line, it goes up to red line, doesn't quite smash off the red line, but sits on it. You just want it to kiss it, you know what I mean? You just want it to sit on that red line and not blow up, because if you've done the massive, huge, massive torque and, killing your car, it's going to redline and blow up in real life, let's be honest. But for my rev limit account, that I always try and keep it above 7,500 RPM and no more than 8,000 RPM. That's what I usually run my rev limiter at. So you guys will probably see that on my recent videos and everything like that. When I do my tunes, you'll always see my rev limit either at 1,800 RPM, 8,000 RPM, sorry, or about 7,000 and some change. You know what I mean? So. Like I say, if you have been paying attention to that, you will see that. But my rev limiter, this is the main thing that I did when tuning gears for this game. It is a pain trying to figure out what does what with the physics and stuff in this game. But yeah, no, rev limiter is perfect at like 8,000 RPM. Obviously, if you're running more horsepower, you're going to need a bigger, not necessarily a bigger rev limiter, but if you are running a lot of horsepower, you'll probably have all of this stuff max. So your rev limiter is probably going to go all the way up to about 10 or whatever like that, 10,000 RPM. So in that retrospect, obviously, you're going to need a bit more fine tuning with the gears. I've found, especially with a lot of horsepower in this game, like a buttload of horsepower, so like 1,400 extra, 1,200, all that sort of stuff. It does get up to redline a hell of a lot quicker, so you guys are going to have to tune for that, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to quickly show you guys the tune for my lower horsepower tune. Obviously gear 2 running at 1.95, speed towards the left and acceleration towards the right. So basically, it's like I said, it's just literally it's a process that you just have to keep going with. You have to keep doing it, keep tuning your gears. You got to find that sweet spot. As you can see, if I'll go into a drift real quick, and you guys will see exactly what I'm talking about right at that sweet spot. So actually, you know what? I'll do it for one of these longer turns. All right. So as you can see right here, obviously we're running second gear for low. This is for the lower corners, but it's still. See how it red bangs a little bit? This is where I'd throw in the third. And she shouldn't red bang at all in third. Little clutch kick there to bump it up. She's still not getting that to that red line. Even when she does get to that red line, she won't red bang. Obviously, because I'm still running at around 42 odd miles an hour. Obviously, with more horsepower, it's going to get there a lot quicker. So, like I said, you just got to tune for that. You just got to keep messing around with your gears and make sure you tune for the amount of horsepower that you're running, basically. All right, now moving on to the higher horsepower car. Obviously, as I said before, it's exactly the same thing, bro. You just gotta keep going with it, keep tuning your gears. Obviously, left is towards speed, right is towards acceleration. But as you can see here, my final drive for this car is actually a 2.50. So right off the bat here, I've needed to put my final drive all the way down to speed in order to contain this thing and make it so the gears are nice. And by the way, these gears are really nice for this car. I really like it. Just a quick update on the engine. We're running 1,496 horsepower. So she's got the most horsepower in the game. Well, not the fastest car in the game, but the most horsepower that I can get out of this car. So obviously, as you can see here, again, rev limiter is at 8,800 RPM. So again, it's only 800 more RPM more than what my other cars would usually run. So it's not too bad. It's not too bad, but again, you still need to run it. You still need to tune your gears to what you're running. So obviously, because I'm only running 8,800 RPM, I've had to tune my final drive all the way down to 2.50 in order to make, counteract that speed. But as you can see here, because we have so much horsepower, you can see that my second gear is at 1.25 and my third is at 1.00. So I know for a fact that this car will probably not run the smoothest on like shorter, tinier, smaller corners because of how large the gears are. Because there's so much horsepower in this car, you want to be able to run the courses that you run. You obviously want to have them like a huge corner or something like that. The second gear will probably get round it. Don't get me wrong. The second gear will probably get round it. Just got to clutch kick it. But obviously, third, fourth, and fifth, no chance you're gonna get round a smaller course with fourth, fifth, and third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. There's no chance of that happening at all. So yeah, but like I say, again, the more horsepower you have, the more lengthier your gears need to be. Obviously, if you're running a short gear ratio, which is towards acceleration, you know, it's going to be, your car's going to be red banging the entire time. And you're just not going to have a smooth drift, if that makes sense, because your engine is trying to top out. It's topping out. It's you know, it's not accelerating anymore. It's straining itself to get more horsepower out, if that makes sense. So this car currently with this setup, it can run a 95,000 point streak on San Plazo, which is the most that I can actually have ever gotten, to be fair. Even with the Voodoo, I haven't reached over 80,000 with the Voodoo. This car, I've managed to reach 95,000. This thing is an absolute beast. I know there's some other people out there that are, you know, putting reverse entries every corner and getting like 6,000 DP points a time, but yeah, that's great and all, but you're not smooth, you know, drifting smoothly. So it is what it is. But you know, like I say, you know, this thing drifts hella smooth on San Plazo. But I'll go ahead and jump straight into San Plazo right now, so you guys can see this car, you know, take them corners nicely, everything like that. So yeah, let's go ahead, jump straight into it. All right, so right off the bat here, you can see larger corner right here. Second gear is not gonna cut it, so I ain't gonna use second gear. But third, again, third gear, not red banging. So that'll be your main gear for this car on the larger sections. Can you see though? 70 miles an hour of third gear, 70, 80. You know, you might be able to push a little bit more if you had your gears redlining the entire time, but your car won't last 5 seconds, if that makes sense. And you're a hell of a lot smoother when your gears are, you know, gears are nicer, if that makes sense. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and try and do a demonstration now. So I just built this thing up. This is that Russian car. I can't remember what it's called, but this is what this is. So yeah, what I've done here is I've bumped it up to 290 horsepower. Same thing again. Rev limiter 8,000 RPM. Max torque 4,285 RPM. We've got a turbo in this thing, obviously, to bring us up to the 290 horsepower fully. So obviously, a diff locking ratio, we want to bump that all the way up to 1.00. Final drive, because it's 290 horsepower, I know that my 3.00 is going to work, so I'm going to bump that down to 3.00. Obviously, you guys can play around, you know, tune your final drive exactly where you want to put it. If you want to run it more speed and then lengthen out your gears a bit more towards speed, with obviously more final drive towards acceleration, then you can do that. If you want to run final drive like me and drive quite a lot towards speed and then try and push your acceleration on your second gear or third gear, or wherever you want to drift in more towards acceleration, that's completely up to you. It's up to you on how you want to drift as well. If you want to drift in third, then you can tune your gears to drift for third. You know what I mean? It's exactly the same process, if that makes sense. It's exactly the same process whether you want to drift in second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever. You know, you just got to tune your gears for exactly what you want to drift with. So for me, I love to drift in second gear. So I tune my gears, tune my golden gear for second gear, which means I'd lengthen it out or shorten it, whatever it needs to be done, so I can tune exactly for second gear for me to run this car perfectly. So exactly what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to run this car, I'm going to tune it with you on the gearing section of everything. I'm going to tune it with you right now so you understand exactly what I do, exactly everything that I do in the tuning process of gears, everything like that, until we get this car completely perfect. So obviously, diff locking ratio is 100%. Obviously, you want to lock a diff so that way the rear tires are going to be spinning up like crazy. My final drive is at 3.00. Always put my final drive at 3.00, no matter what. Obviously, as you've seen with the other high horsepower car, 1,400 horsepower, that car is obviously a lot of horsepower. So obviously, you're going to need more final drive. You're going to need it more towards speed, because otherwise it's going to be red banging. The car's going to be red lining like crazy. So anyway, first gear, I don't usually touch first gear because it's just a burnout gear. So it usually, you know, every car in this game is usually around 3 to 4 on first gear, you know, 3 point something or 4 point something on first gear. So that's usually pretty good for doing burnouts and whatnot. So I usually leave that completely stock. That's obviously because my final drive is so high. or towards speed. If your final drive, if you want to run your final drive at like 4.50, which it would be like, if I do that quickly, 4.50 is obviously more towards speed, then you might need to tune your gears to go a little bit shorter, as your final drive is you need to tune your first gear longer as your final drive is shorter, if that makes sense. So shorter being towards acceleration, longer being towards speed. Same thing again. So I'm going to move my final drive back down to 3.00. There we go. Alright, so first gear, obviously I don't touch that. My second gear, from this point, I haven't driven the car or anything like that, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set a base gear. My base gear is usually at 2.00 because that is, I usually find myself tuning around this 2.00 mark, especially for gear 2. You might find that might vary again if your final drive is at 4.50 or something like that. You might find that it might change, so just bear with it. You might need to find your own sort of base gear, baseline for your start of your tune, whatever. But yeah, no, so that is my base for gear 2, and in gear 3 I'll obviously put that 10 below. So that is obviously at 190, and then fourth I'd leave exactly where it's at. Don't need to touch that yet. Second and third is the main gears that I'm going to be tuning, so that is the gears that I'm going to be obviously using right off the bat. Okay, so obviously jumping straight into first practice here, this is obviously where you're going to spawn. For me, what I tend to do is I tend to use my own little course I have go on over here. So I'd go over here and I will obviously do this course and see where my gears are at straight off the bat. So, second gear already. It's not looking too bad, if I'm going to be honest. Second gear is not looking that bad, bro. It's not looking too bad. Obviously, right on the end there, it started red banging right as it started coming up to the end of the track, which is a longer course. It's a longer bend coming around. So what we could do is we could run a different course with a slightly longer bend and see how different that will vary. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run a slightly different course that we have set up over here. Again, this is another pre-made course that I don't think I've shown you guys this one yet, but again, pre-made course. I'm going to run this car through. Obviously we're sitting in third right now, so that's not good. I want to see what second's like. Alright, so right off the bat here, the second gear isn't too bad, sitting at 2.00, but for the longer drifts, obviously it starts to slack a little bit, where it gets up to that and then it starts to bang quite a bit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drop it by 5 again. Same thing as I said before, I drop it by 5 every time I move it down. So I'm going to drop it by 5 here, 1.95, and see how she runs in second. Obviously with gear 3 again, drop it by 5, because obviously we've dropped one by 5, we need to drop the other one by 5, but we'll tune third gear as we finish gear 2, if that makes sense. So if you wanted to, you can leave that at 190, but for this case I'm just going to quickly pop that back down to 185, because I think that might be good, if that makes sense. I think that will be perfect on how it is there. But we shall see. We're going to go ahead and test drive this right now and see what happens here. Alright, so right off the bat here, I'm going to go ahead and see what happens here when we run the larger section. Alright, so obviously after that little run there, obviously you're not going to be running the best of runs right off the bat with your brand new car, your brand new tune, everything like that you're still trying to get used to. Obviously I'm not used to this car. This car is a weird car to drive. I don't really like it that much, but anyway, that's besides the point. I'm trying to show you guys exactly how I do, tuning gears, everything like that. So obviously 195 was pretty good. you know, it was pretty good. It was sitting quite nice. The car was quite nice. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drop it by 2 though. I'm going to drop it by 2. So we're at 195. So that's 194, 193. If it does it, there we go. 193 for gear 2. And I'm going to go ahead and hit it up from there, see what happens. Test same thing again. I'm going to do it on a slightly smaller course this time though. Alright, so there you go, that is perfect. So there you go, 193 is your final gear for gear 2. That is a perfect gear right there. You know, it didn't red bang, it, you know, moved up to the red line, very nice. It sat on the red line, again, you know, didn't red bang, anything like that. So perfect gear right there. So what I'd do now is I'd then move on to gear 3. So now gear 2 is finished, gear 3 is now where I'd go. So obviously 185 is what we have it already. So let's go ahead and try gear 3 out. Obviously we're going to have to use longer corners this time, because obviously gear 3 is going to be for the longer drifts, the speedier stuff. This is what you can get up to another player if you are using tandems, if you're going to use this car or whatever the car may well be. For tandems, obviously you're going to need to get up on their door either a bit quicker if you're going to cut the line or whatever the case may well be. Gear 3 will probably be your gear to do this. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and try and run gear 3 here on this little course. Obviously, gear 2 starts off, bump into gear 3, what we got? Bang, already, yeah, we're already red banging off this thing. So obviously, 183 is not good enough, we need to bump that up. So obviously we're going to get no power out of that whatsoever. So I'm going to go ahead and bump that down to 175 and see what happens. Like I said, it's always trial and error, with definitely with gears. You know, it takes a long time to do. See, same thing again, still bumping off the red line right there, so that's not good enough. We're going to bump it down another 5, 170. Gonna bump that up again, second gear, move into third. Just, I don't think she banging. I think that is just literally bumps in the road, making it drop down a bit, which is perfect. Try and get a little bit more speed here. Obviously gear 2 there, just pushing us around the corner. So obviously gear 3 is not going to let us make it. It's going to die on us, right? Nice speedy corner here. Yeah, not even redlining. I don't think she redlined once though. Obviously let off the gas just before it did start redlining, but yeah, not even redlining. Not even redlining. There's all bumps in the road, making it, you know, jolt about a bit. You know, making the car jolt. So nice and smooth through here, so we can see what's actually going to happen. Okay, now she's redlining. Now she is redlining all the way through that first corner right there. But obviously, you know, I was gunning it right there, man. Absolutely 100% gunning it through that first corner. I wouldn't do that. You know, if you want to get around there clean, you wouldn't 100% gun it. So this third gear, I think, is perfect right now. Perfect for getting up onto someone. Perfect for those longer corners. That is pretty much it. That is, you know, that's pretty much it. All you need to know really on gear and ratios. Obviously, if you want to bump up gear 4, 5, and 6, obviously use exactly the same method. Obviously, we're on 170 right now, so you want to push that one all the way back up to 170, and then just trial and error from there. So obviously, gear 3 is 170, gear 4 push that to 170. I would probably go 10 down from that, so I'd push it down to 160 and then try it from there, because you're definitely not going to need more acceleration on that. So you've already got gear 3, which is perfect for that, you know, what was it, 50, 60 to 70 range, I think, miles per hour wise. you know, 60 to 70 miles an hour you're good for, and then gear 4 would literally be plus that. So you're thinking probably another 20 odd miles an hour after that. Same for gear 5, gear 6, you know, yada yada yada. If you needed that much more miles per hour on you, obviously you could get them out of gear 4. But obviously, yeah, that is pretty much it. That is pretty much gearing in a nutshell. Obviously, you just got to remember, left is towards speed, right is towards acceleration, and you should be good to go, man. I really hope this guide has helped. I know it's a little bit of a lengthy one. I've been recording here for 38 minutes, so I'm hopefully I'll be able to squish it down quite considerably for you guys. But yeah, no, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to gears, everything like that. So you know, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Be sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button. If you have any questions at all, please do ask them down below in the comments. Ask them down below. I'm always, checking out comments. I'm even looking at comments that, a year ago, videos from a year ago. I'm still looking at the comments and replying to them. So, pump down those comments down below. If you have any sort of questions at all, I will try and my best to explain it over, text. But if it's something major, then I might make another video about it, just to explain it in more depth or whatever. But all right, thank you guys all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.